Hi, and welcome back to my tutorial series. Today we're going to look at how to make some interactive doors. Now, these can be really useful when you're building out levels. Now, before we get started, do remember to subscribe, and without further ado, let's get started on this tutorial. Now, the first thing we're going to do is just use some content assets that are provided by Epic. It turns out that they have recently removed these from Unreal. So due to that, I'm using Unreal version 5.6, which I think is the last version with them in. If you are using a higher version, you can always download 5.6 or a lower version of the engine and then just copy them across. But it is a case of manually copying them from the engine folder. For me, because I've already got 5.6 running, I've created a new third-person game. I'm just going to go here to add, go to the add feature or content pack, go to content, select start content, and just add it to the project. Now, I don't really need all this content, so maybe it's fair that they've sort of removed it in later packs, but it is useful to get started. So it's a bit of a shame that they've completely removed it, not just put it in this optional folder still. I think it has worked, but that hasn't gone away. So if I just close that out, yeah, now I've got the start content. I can go into props, and there's a couple of, I'd say, semi-useful props in here, at least to get started and place things. And because this is going to be a door tutorial, I'm going to use these two here, the door and the door frame. But first, I want to create a blueprint. So if I just go back into content folder, I'll make a new folder. I'll call it blueprints just to keep it neat. I'll open that, right click, go to blueprint class, add an actor, call that BP underscore door. And then I can open that up and wait a few seconds for that. And I'm going to dock that. And what I want to do is in the default scene route is I'm going to hit add. I'm going to set for static mesh and add that. And I'll rename that something like door so we know what it is. And in the static mesh actual drop down, I'm going to search for my door. And there's SM door. I think it might be the one below it I want. Not sure what that one is actually. Select that one. And the door pops up and the textures load in. Cool. So what I want to do next is just move this door 45 units. Oh, I'll put it on the rotation. That's wrong. I meant to put it on the location. So effectively, this door is now in the center of the actor. And next, I want to go and select these default scene route again and do add. And then look for collision and select the box collision. Now this box collision wants to be almost over the door. So what I suggest is you move it up in space so it's like that. And then either in the box descent or in the scale, adjust it to fit. I might just use the box extent. So let's say 80 in the X. Yeah, that's good. Let me see. Probably about the same in the Y. Is that a bit too big? Yeah, let's go to 60. Maybe a smaller 50. Yeah, that's all right. And make that 100. Just so it's surrounding the door, because what you want to do is have the door open when a person steps into this collision, which is going to be acting as our trigger. And then what I want to do is add the door frame as well. So if I hit add, sorry, so it's a static mesh again. Call that door frame. Go to static mesh drop down and search for the door frame. SM door frame, and again just pops in. That looks pretty good actually. What I'm going to do is also just on this door frame with it still selected is add an arrow. Now you don't have to, but it just makes it easier to know which way your door's facing when you place it in the level, and it'll only appear when you're actually using the editor. It won't appear when you're in the game. So I just get that and drag that out. You'll see that now I know which way the front of the doorway is in this level. So what we want to do now is make it so when we go into this, the door will open. So I go to the event graph, and then actually what I'm going to do is I want to get the box. I've already got highlighted here. Scroll down right to the bottom of the details panel and have an on component begin overlap, and I'm just going to select the same box again and look for on component end overlap. So we've got these two now. Just check that that's right. Component end, on component begin. Yeah. We'll do the begin first. So what we want to know is when our actor, our third person, interacts with the door or not. So if I drag from that and search for third person character and get that, and I'll just duplicate this, but you can do it however you want, and plug the same into the end overlap. So now I know when he's in the box and when he's out of the box. What I'm going to then do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out from here and search for enable input and put that there. And I'm going to drag out from this and I'm going to search for disable input. Now what I need to do is give it a player controller. So all I need to do is search for get player controller. Obviously there might be problems if you're doing a multiplayer game, but for this we know that there's only one player, and that's at player index 0. So if I just grab that return value and attach it to both the player controller for the input and the out, and disabling the input there. And that should be that. So if I compile that, then we're done there. Now, what I want to do is make it so that we can actually use our input, and an input. Now, there's a couple of different ways. I'm going to use the new system in Unreal just to show you that again. So that's the new input system. I just go back into third person level over here, clicking on that tab. And we're going to look for the inputs. And we're going to go into actions. And so far we've got jump, look, mouse look, move. I'm just going to duplicate the jump just because it's quicker than searching for a new input action, and rename that to interact. So it's now IA interact. Now, if I go back to that input folder above actions and go into this IMC default, and as we can see, if we go into mappings, we've got jump, move, look. I'm going to add a new one. I'm going to search for my interact, which is at the top of the list. Open that up, and now we've got to provide it a key binding. So I'm just going to click the keyboard here, and I'm going to use, say, A on the controller. Actually, I bet that's jump already, isn't it? Yeah. So actually, let's use X on the controller. And I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to make that one my E key. So that's why this one's such a good input system. So you can just stack up what inputs you want, and it's pretty quick to use it, really. If we go back into the BP door and right click, and I'm going to search for IA underscore interact. So now we've got a way of when this input becomes active on this object, of actually interacting with the door and playing the animation. So what I'm going to do is just right click here and right click here and make a custom event. So search for custom here, or add custom event, and I'll make that door interact or something like that. Or maybe it's better, I don't know, animate door, because that's what we're going to do here. And what we're going to do now is just drag out from this and go flip and look for flip flop. And what that means is every time we use this, it'll either choose A or B, and it'll do it in order. So it'll go A, B, A, B, A, B, basically. So if I drag out from this, what I'm going to do is look for timeline and add a timeline. Just name that door or something like that. Oh, it doesn't like that. Door animation. And what we want to do is make the door open and close during this. So what we want to do is just go into our door animation. I'm going to leave the length of 5 seconds. We'll maybe adjust that in a bit. But I'm just going to hit track and add a float track. And if I just move this around with the right mouse button, I'm going to click here and I'm going to add a key to curve float. And I'm just going to adjust that slightly. In fact, it's best just to type in here. So I'm going to go 0 and 0 on there. And we're going to add another one. Right click again, add curve. Let's put that on the 5 seconds for the time and 1 for the value. So if I just go back to my event graph, now we've got the thing that's actually going to animate the door, basically. What we want to do is rotate the door. So what I want to do is get this door, and I need to set relative rotation. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here and right click and do split struct pin. I'm going to put that up there, and we have this new track that we've created. So if I just drop off that and search for alert and open that. So actually what I want to do is disconnect this, so break that alert and just put it into alpha instead, and put that return value into the Z value, Z. And here I'm going to type 85 because that'll be how far I want the door to rotate. And then all I need to do is take the update and plug it in there. And instead of playing when we want it to close, all we need to do is go into reverse. And the only other thing we need to do just to quickly test that is to go into our started for our enhanced input action drag out and look for our animate door function that's below it. And I'm just doing that because it's a little bit neater and more useful later on when you've got a bigger blueprint. So if I compile and go in there and hit play, now I should be able to run over here and you can see the door starts to open. Now that is a bit slow, so actually what we're going to do, we'll go in there and I'll open that again. And what I'll do is I'll just go there, change that time to be, I don't know, 2 seconds instead, change the length to be 2 as well. Got to remember to do that or it will just carry on playing and it'll look pretty strange. So if I just do that again, should be able to interact with the door and go through it. You might still want to play with that, but that's good for me. Now, what we might want to do is we might want different states when you're using the door. So maybe you want to have the door open, or you want it to be locked, and then you have to find an item to actually unlock the door. So we'll look at doing that now. And what I'm going to do is quickly go into our blueprints, right click, make a new blueprint class, actor, we'll call this BP underscore, let's call it key, and I'll open that. Now, what I'm going to do, which is going to be similar to what we did with the door, is I'm going to add a static mesh, and we'll call that key. And I'm going to select the default scene route again and look for collision again and add a simple box collision. Now that's massive, but I don't have a mesh in there yet anyway. What I'm going to do is go back to this key mesh, and I don't actually know what I'm going to use quite yet because I don't think there's a suitable key in here, but I'm just going to quickly look. Just because we don't have a key and it's for our player, let's add this SM target base mesh, and that is absolutely huge, so I'm going to make that 0.1 for all of these, and there we go. So we got something that's a stand-in for our key, and like I said, the box is too big, so what I might do is just move that up into the center of the little person mesh a little bit more, and in fact I'm going to move that down a little bit, the mesh, and I'm going to move the box to be in the center like I said, and I'm going to set this to, I don't know, 10 for my box extents on all of them. Let's compile that and pull that into the level just so we can see it. It's actually gone through the ground. I was wrong about moving it down. Let's just move that up a bit. Okay, so that's a bit better, I think. Yeah, and if I just put that there, that can be our little key object to open this door. So what I need to do is basically tell the door that it's locked and the key opens it. So what we'll do is go to BP key again for a second. In fact, no, to light. We'll just go into door because we need to make the lock ball. So if I just, go back into event graph so I can see what I'm doing there. And look for our variables and add a new variable called locked. And I'll just compile that. Now what we can do is go back into our BP key, select our box, and scroll down again, and eventually we'll find our on component begin overlap. So I'm going to go add. What I'm going to do is check that the other actor is our third person character again. And another thing we want to do is make another variable in here. So we'll press the plus button and we'll look for our door BP. So there it is, BP door, add object reference. And I'll call this something like object for now. I'll make that instance editable and you'll see why in a second. So I'll compile that. And then what I can do is get our little object variable that we made, get object, and we can search for well, it was locked, wasn't it? And we'll set locked to false. So we'll just connect that. So what that will do is when we pick this up, it'll unlock the door object once it's assigned. And what else I'm going to do is just at the end here, destroy actor. And that'll just get rid of this actor because we don't want it lingering around once you've picked up the key essentially. You put it in your pocket so it won't be visible. And if I just go back to the BP door. And actually what I'm going to do is with the locked, I'm going to make that visible as well. Click on that and make the little eye appear or just instance editable over here. And where we had our interact earlier and our little custom animate door, what I'm going to do is to drag that out. I'm going to drag in our locked ball, get locked, and search for branch. And if I connect that up, and then, so this is locked. If it's locked, we don't want to be able to open the door. If it's unlocked, we do. So if I take the false, because that means the door's no longer locked, I can go into animate door. I'll compile that and save it. So I think that should be it. If I then select the key, and we've got this default object. Now that's going to be our door object, and as we're using the actual class BP door, we can just select it and it's the only one in the level. If there were multiple ones, you could select a specific door to open. Now what I'm going to do is just select the door as well, and that has our default, which is locked, question mark. Well, yeah, I do want it locked because I want to test this. So if I just make that true, hit save, and go into the level. And then what I can do is find our little person on the ground. No, actually, what we'll do is we'll try the door first. Now there's a problem. There's no collision on this. So that kind of screws up our test. Let's quickly fix that. So if I just go into the start content props folder, find the door, and I'm going to just go collision, add box collision, and you can see it's just there now. So if I save that, now let's try that again. And now we shouldn't be able to go through the door, and it doesn't interact, it doesn't animate either. So now the moment of truth, I pick that up and go back to the door. Magically it now opens and I can go through it. Right, let's have a quick look at adding some more functionality to this door, because it'd be nice if the door could start open, and it'd also be nice if instead of always opening outwards, which is sometimes you could flip it and it would open inwards as well, which is really good for level design, because obviously that's a bit annoying when you're trying to navigate a level if it opens the opposite way. So let's have a look at that now. So I'm gonna make it so the door can be flipped around from the start. So if I just go back into our BP door and we've got event begin play up here. Then we're gonna make a new ball and we're gonna call this flipped. And we're gonna make it instance editable where you can use the little eye tool. I'm just going to do it that way. Just compile that so I can see it there. And I'm going to drag out from here and make a branch. And we're going to get our ball and I'm just going to connect that. And when flipped is true, what we want to do is we want to actually, we need our door variable. So if I get that and look for set relative scale 3D, I'll leave that there. And I'm going to just drag out again and do set relative location. Now we saw before that we had to, when I built this, I set the door location to 45. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change that, still in the Y, I'm going to set that to -45. So the door's over the other side now, effectively. That's because of this pivot. I don't know if you can see that there. It did appear earlier, but you can see where the gizmo is. So that's where it's going to pivot around. So once I've flipped it around, it'll actually pivot from the other side. I'll go back into the event graph, and the only other thing is our new scale is a bit rubbish. It's going to be 0, 0, 0, so it's going to be invisible basically, or look invisible to us. So I'm going to set that to 1. But I'm going to set the Y to -1 because we're going to flip it around, and we're going to set that Z to 1 as well. And we're just going to connect that up. So that, I think, is that for now. And it should just work. So if I compile it, go in here, and if I take that, I'm going to take the lot off for a second because we're just going to test these. And I'm going to select one flipped and one's not. So if I press play, and we go to open our doors, this one now opens outwards, this one should open inwards. So that's quite useful for us, especially your level design. Like I say, you want to quickly switch things around. I just have to go in there, hit a ball. I don't have to like, rotate it or anything like that. And also it's easier for prototyping. So one other thing I want to look at is actually making it so the doors open when you come up to it and you can close it. Again, useful for level design. So if I just go into the BP door, and what I want to do is just make a new ball, and we'll call it, I don't know, open at start. And again, make that accessible and compile it and drag it out. And we'll make another branch. Now what we can do is we can force the timeline to run for our flip door, but actually just open or set the timeline to be open. So if we go into components, we'll see the door animation timeline that we made down here. If I just grab that and do get door, I need to drag out and set playback position. And I'll just connect it up to the true. And for the faults, we won't do anything. And our new position is going to be 1. And after that, in fact, I'm just going to open that up and make sure fire events and fire update is just checked. I drag out from that and add our animation or animate door. So that's our our custom function we made earlier. So with that, what we're doing is when we start and the ball is true, it'll instantly set this position to be 1, which should open our door fully. So if I just change our flipped one just to have open at start, and if we go over here, you can now see the door's already open for us, so we can just walk straight through. And with that, that's how to create several different options for your door types, which are really useful when you're prototyping and making game levels. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and with that, that is the end of the tutorial. Please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.